Second, please.
Second.
Who second that? Okay, Kyle. All right, we have a second down there. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we're out of executive session. We're back in open session. Okay. So, Chair will entertain a motion for the contract extension for the executive director's agreement.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion. The motion is to extend CEO Grace Galucci's current contract for a period of 6 months, beginning July 1, 2024, on the same terms as her current contract agreement, and to authorize Jeff Brandon as president of NOACA to execute such extension.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Chris. We have a second here by Kim Thomas. Any further discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, then the amendment passes. Thank you. All right, we're going to continue on with our meeting here. We have minutes to approve from the March 8th Board of Directors meeting. Can I have a motion to approve? Rich? Okay. Can I have a second, please?
Brennan.
Mayor Brennan? All right, any discussion on the minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
on page 4 of the minutes, there was a note from a comment related to the transportation surveys. And I think there's just a slight clarification needed. And I'm trying to get to the page. I'm sorry. I was there and then I was not. In the minutes that it noted that Commissioner Aaron Harrison asked if NOACA will send out more surveys until it reaches the target of 9,000. The answer to the question, Director Galucci said yes. I think the question was if we'd send out more surveys until it reaches a target of 9,000 or until the overall cap of 550,000 was reached. I think that was or maybe it was 500,000. And that just didn't make the minutes. I would ask that we amend the minutes to reflect that note.
Okay, I think we can do that. All right, thank you, Commissioner.
I guess I would move that we would amend the minutes to make that note.
All right, sounds good. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
But I think we probably need to vote just on the amendment or on the note on the minutes as the amendment was proposed. Yeah.
Vote on the amendment for the minutes then?
Or I believe just a point of order, I think we can vote on the minutes as amended if we have a second on that.
All right, we can do that. So we need a second. We've got a Tom. All right, thank you. All right, hard to see down there. All right, we have a second. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, then the minutes are approved. All right, we'll move on to committee updates. On the executive committee, I think we talked enough about that. The summary can be in your packet from our last meeting. How about external affairs? Commissioner?
No
Any
report.
Summary is in the packet then. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, how about the Finance and Audit Committee? Commissioner Dvorak, I don't know if he's here today. All right, didn't see him, but the summary can be found in your packet. Governance Committee, Commissioner Hamercheck. Okay, thank you. Planning and Program Committee, Jim Gills is here.
I'm here, but too old to remember, so you have to read the packet.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jim. And Policy Committee, Ben Capel.
No report.
All right, very good. All the summaries can be found in your packet. Thank you. Regarding public comments on today's agenda items, did we get anybody signed in to speak today? And we did. All right. And as always, we give each speaker 3 minutes to comment on any agenda items on today's agenda. And we'll start off with John Callis.
morning, everyone.
Morning.
I came here today to comment on the agenda item 2B, NOACA Executive Director Grace Galucci's contract extension and the ongoing investigation into NOACA's practices. I will first say this, as a frequent contributor, I rarely agree with Mrs. Galucci, but she has always treated me with respect despite my vocal opposition. As an executive director, Ms. Galucci proved useful to certain NOACA board members until April 2023, right up to the point that she challenged the naming of NOACA's Climate Action Plan. Her challenge was countered by a successful campaign to retain the Climate Action Plan title through a board vote spearheaded by Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne. When it came time for the board to vote on Mrs. Galucci's contract extension in November of 23, Mr. Ronayne harnessed the discontent of board members representing NOACA's necklace communities or necklace counties and was able to postpone the vote until January of 24. Leading up to that board meeting, an anonymous complaint was filed against NOACA by former staffers. One of those anonymous staffers, who was rumored to have moved on to work for Cuyahoga County, showed up to air her complaints at the January board meeting, prompting another postponement. It's worth questioning whether the investigation would have ever been pursued without these on-record comments. The timing of these events has not been lost on me. 6 months of stagnation with no end in sight makes me suspicious that the moves against Mrs. Galucci are an effort to secure a new, more progressive executive director that will be amenable to Mr. Ronayne's agenda, as he is set to take over as NOACA's president in 2025. It is hard to read the local news and not take notice of Mr. Ronayne's involvement in similar strategies. Just last week, an article by Signal Cleveland's Nick Castile centered around an email sent to Mr. Ronayne from Cleveland Cavaliers CEO Nick Barlage on January 16th. In it, Barlage shares his disappointment in being omitted by Mr. Ronayne from weighing in on the selection process for the new board chair of the Gateway Economic Development Corporation. I would be lying if I said I wasn't bothered by the Cleveland Foundation's funding of Mr. Ronayne's visit to the COP27 climate summit in Egypt when he was county executive-elect. The same way that I would be lying if I said I wasn't bothered by them funding the creation of local news site Signal Cleveland, who reports on all of these matters favorably to Mr. Ronayne.
Point of order, if this is about Ms. Galucci's contract, this is not what this testimony is being provided.
It absolutely is, and I'm going to explain to why.
And we have 3 minute,
Okay, I'm at about a
limit here,
minute and
John.
30 seconds, I think.
okay.
I think Mr. Ronayne accurately stated his agenda 15 years ago at the 2009 NOACA Annual Summit. Then employed as president of University Circle, Inc., but speaking as more of a regional planner, Mr. Ronayne shared his forward vision and what he referred to as his triple play. Mr. Ronayne stated his goal of regional tax sharing model, a regional government or unigov, and smart growth planning. He will be in no better position to start that process than next year as NOACA president, possibly with a hand-picked executive director in tow. I will now address the members of Cleveland City Council in the room. Last week, council passed an ordinance to double campaign contributions in order to, as Cleveland.com said, fend off progressive challengers.
Point of order.
We all know that progressives aren't going away quietly. So what do you want
I
to
think
do?
our time
Help
is up.
build a regional
John, thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll move on to, we have another speaker today, Sue Krejci.
Good morning. My name is Sue Krejci and I live in Brunswick. I was here in December with a lot of other folks from Homes Not Highways, and I'm here on their behalf today. First, I want to thank you for hearing us that day and passing a unanimous resolution against the law that Strongsville's Representative Tom Patton included in the state budget bill last year, requiring an interchange at Boston Road on the Brunswick-Strongsville border. It was truly inspiring to witness. Senator Smith's comments from the March meeting minutes encouraged everyone to help their legislators not be blinded by the needs of today to the detriment of the needs of tomorrow. I would argue that that's exactly what's happened in this case. Representative Patton and Strongsville's Mayor Persiak have figured out a way around the usual process to address their need today, regardless of the impact and precedent that this sets for the future. SB 155 and its companion bill HB 276 were introduced in September 2023 to repeal Patton's interchange by formula law. Despite NOACA submitting proponent testimony, thank you, Grace, and residents making multiple trips down to Columbus to provide testimony and advocate for their passage by calling and emailing committee chairs multiple times a week, we can't get either bill to even a committee vote. The legislature breaks for summer soon and will likely not return until after the election in November, making it extremely likely that these bills will die in committee, forcing us to start all over again in January. It's frustrating, especially because Strongsville's entire argument against repeal was that this law was needed to bring ODOT and NOACA together and to force a study. Mayor Persiak said during his House opponent testimony that, quote, "What we're hoping here is NOACA will step up to the plate and finally determine what is necessary here, and let's get the feasibility study we absolutely need, and then make a determination from there," end quote. Even their lobbyist, Tim Bigham, testified that, quote, "The appropriate studies have never been completed, and that's really what we're asking for, and ultimately this provision is designed to force to have happen," end quote. In April, Strongsville got their wish. ODOT and NOACA announced they will be moving forward with a study on ways to improve traffic in the Strongsville-Brunswick area. Even though he's now getting exactly what he said he wanted from the law in his testimony, Persiak has stated he will still not support repeal. In fact, word on the street is that Representative Patton is telling his constituents that the interchange will go in at Boston Road because it's in the law, which will not be repealed. Based on our experience over the past year, I tend to believe him. So where do we go from here? Brunswick doesn't seem to have any leverage at all other than begging the representatives in Columbus to do the right thing. Per ODOT's press release, I understand NOACA needs to authorize a study during your September meeting. My hope would be that NOACA only authorizes the study contingent upon repeal of ORC 5501.60. Otherwise, this is the new playbook to get around NOACA and ODOT for any other community you dare to tell no. As a reminder, Patton already had put this into law back in 2017 before it was line item vetoed. Without such a provision, Strongsville has a built-in Plan B if the study shows it should go anywhere but Boston Road. In fact, although Strongsville continues to emphatically deny that they want the interchange because they are planning to connect Foats Industrial Parkway to Boston Road, there is evidence they were advertising exactly that on their website as recently as June of last year. Yet again, the deck seems stacked from the start against Brunswick. In the interim, everyone in this area continues to live in limbo with property values decimated by this threat. NOACA as the MPO should be the arbiter of interchanges, not the State House. As you know, this case is being watched nationally. If the study is authorized without requiring the law to be repealed first, you are tying your own hands and giving away your power. Please help us repeal this bad law that only applies to one area in the entire state. We all want to rest assured that this issue will be resolved regionally through the proper channels and not through politicians in Columbus who think they know best our needs of tomorrow. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for your comments. All right, move on to the president's report. I really don't have anything further. We'll move on to the executive director's report. Grace, do you have anything for us today?
I do, but recognizing the time, I'll try to make it very quick. I can get some help. There we go. I got it. Thank you. So first on the long-range plan, we know that we adopted ENEO 2050 back in 2021, and every 4 years we must update it as a requirement of USDOT. So it is our time to do that. But this will be a soft update, meaning that we're going to keep the time frame of 2050, which means most of the assumptions are the same. And we will continue to move forward with the scenarios that we developed. However, we have new census data. We have post-COVID trends. We will do some additional public outreach and we'll have more information to come. This will be expected to be adopted by the board in 2025. So June of 25, we're working now to make that soft update. Communications and outreach, lots of positive news about NOACA, a lot around the EV charging stations that we are putting in place, as well as the $15 million that we received from EPA. The Boston Road I-71 interchange, there's been a lot of news about that, as the speaker alluded to in her presentation. Lakefront Trail in Lake County, we certainly will have some opportunity to provide funding for this project, and it is fitting in very well with our Lake Erie Connects project. So they did invite us to be out there as a guest speaker and participate in the ribbon cutting. Lakefront connectivity study, again, additional news on the work that has been done by our partners. Oftentimes we do all the planning or some of the planning, but it's the communities that actually implement the work, the projects. And so giving some credit there to Lake Metro Parks and Cuyahoga County. New research for the downtown Cleveland TLCI had shown that there is a need for more protected bike infrastructure, and there was a lot of news around that, including IdeaStream that I participated in the March timeframe. Brownfield's revolving loan fund at this point, the news has caught up with the work that we're doing, and Middleburg Heights, secured a grant, and there was some news on that for the asbestos removal at the Sears site. The news has covered our GoHio Commute Challenge. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. In the news, there's lots of other opportunities for us to be proud of the work we do at NOACA around the funding that we provide. As you know, we have two main functions, one planning, one funding. So a lot of opportunities to share the good news, and we're glad that the media has done so. Speaking of legislative and funding, we went to Washington. NOACA, I myself went along with Bev Bertzloff and Andrew Bean, who are part of our legislative team, and we visited with members and or their staff of all of the representatives, and was even able to catch Dave Joyce out in the hallway so for a photo op. CPRG Phase 2, this is some interesting news. We have participated as a partner with the City of Cleveland in submitting an application based on the PCAP, the Preliminary Climate Action Plan. And this application is called Reclaiming the Forest City. So it is nearly $10 million, and the grant, if we receive it, will be used for two purposes. One is to restore the city's and the region's tree canopy, and then to complete the Green Streets approach, as well as offering rebates to residents for e-bikes. So it's the idea of the benefits that trees bring to cleaning the air, and the idea of e-bikes also then not contributing, getting people out of cars and not contributing to the additional pollution. Major projects, we're making progress on installing the EV charging stations. We've got 6 of them installed at the locations that you see in front of you, and we are working on 33 others. We also had a workshop on May 30th about the fees that are charged. So that was a great workshop. Thank you, all of you who did attend or sent your representatives. With the installation, we're waiting for a few permits, and once the permits are granted, they will be operational, and we will have a ribbon cutting. The I-71 study that was mentioned both in the news and by Ms. Cressy, we will be taking this study on in partnership with ODOT. It will be a large study. I-71 bounded by Pearl Road, which is US 42, State Route 303, and West 130th. The idea is to develop a congestion management plan with the purpose of conceptual alternatives to alleviate traffic congestion, feasibility analysis, and then identify solutions. It is expected to take 2 years to complete, and we want to ensure that whatever recommendations come out of this study will meet the needs of all of the communities, and that all of communities will come to consensus on those solutions. What we are looking at doing, we currently have an RFP out on the street for this. It is due back, I believe, at the end of this month. At that time, we will look to select one of the folks who submit a proposal and bring it to the board in September. So in September, you will see an action that we hope that you will take to allow us to complete this study in partnership with ODOT. And I know that Bob Weaver is here, and we have been working diligently with ODOT to develop the scope and to really think through how this would work. And I didn't know, Bob, if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Executive Director. Yeah, that's a good summary. ODOT and NOACA have partnered over the last several months to develop this scope, which is not biased in any way, in any means, I guess. I know previous studies that have been performed have been kind of looking at one alternative, but the idea behind this scope and this study will be to look at multiple alternatives as opposed to possibly a new interchange. So just want to throw that out there as well. Thank you, Grace.
But thank you. And we look forward to working with you on that.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Harrison,
Thank you.
please.
And I had raised a question at the point where that news had hit the hit the wires about the study. I know this one is the intended focus obviously is in relation to the revised code section related to that Boston Road interchange. The last time from NOACA's perspective, I believe that it was studied, that was the northern area, and there was a southern area also in Medina County that was studied. I don't know if have there been any discussions about making the scope broader so other areas in the region who maybe didn't take as aggressive action to initiate such a law would benefit from it as well as they have in years past?
So we did discuss this with ODOT, and it was determined that this footprint really was the appropriate footprint, and adding anything else to that would distract from the purpose at hand of dealing with that specific congestion in Strongsville. It doesn't mean that we can't do another separate study for those, or wait for this to be completed and see how this would impact some of the other aspects of the congestion or the desires along I-71, particularly in Medina County.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. And then the only other comment I'll make on that is I agree with the speaker's comments that this does feel slightly like the ability to get this jump to the front of the line is really benefiting for even now that there's a study coming. So I would hope that as an organization, we keep our eye on what's happening in Columbus between now and September when we have an opportunity to vote on it. Because I personally don't know how I'll be able to support it if the homes and livelihoods of the people who live on Boston Road are still threatened by a state law, and we're sitting here authorizing a study that's not conditioned upon that being repealed, which really has been the motive that we all collectively supported at our meeting last year in the fall. So thank you.
Those are some great points. Recognizing that this issue and many studies for this issue have been around for decades. The objective of this study is to finally address it and get it off the table. That being said, I am scheduled to go to Columbus in 2 weeks to speak against the legislation, or I'm sorry, for the legislation to repeal the previous legislation. And making this study contingent, I will put that in my remarks.
Okay.
Moving on, net zero coal projects. So this is something we've been working on since 2020. The first phase of it was due to a grant from the sewer district, Northeast Ohio Sewer District, and we were very pleased to be able to complete that part of the project, which incorporated and showcased green infrastructure. We are now going to be completing phase 3, or hoping to complete phase 3, which is a mural on the side of the building. We have to paint the building anyway. This is the time for us to do that. And so we are going to be soliciting artists this summer. So if you want to ensure that your favorite artist has a possible say in what our mural looks like and has the opportunity to do it, please let us know, or keep your eye out for the RFP.
Director?
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. I just had a really quick question. Who named this project? Do you know?
I think we named it ourselves. NOACA did.
Was there a particular staff member who came up with Zero Cool as a portion of this name?
I don't know that anything is a particular staff member. We do things here as a team.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it was a team that came up with that title.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate whoever it was that made the hackers reference. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that was part of it or not. Um, We just thought it was a cool project. So the cool meant cool. And I often use that. So that's how I take it. And the net zero, of course, is net zero emissions.
Oh, Kelly?
Or net zero impact.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to clarify the directional pieces on the facades. So is it right that the one labeled north facade is maybe actually the east along East 13th here? And the one labeled west would be the north, that's the back of the building?
You could be correct that those labels are reversed.
Just clarifying to picture it. Looks like a very interesting project. Thank you.
Yes, the larger part is the facade on 13th, which would be actually the west. Yes, that would be the west facade, and the one behind the building would be the north facade. Correct. We'll make sure that that's clear in the RFP. Thank you for pointing that out. Some more news on the household travel survey. The survey was completed May 27th. We have received we wanted to receive 9,000 of them, but only 6,000 have been completed. So the consultant is extracting the data and determining what next steps will take place. We'll keep you updated on that, and we hope to have the final report stay on schedule, which is August 30th. The inventory of roadway material for our street supplies program has been increased. So we did have another $13,000 remaining from the original grant. So we bought some speed bumps and plastic delineators and paint rollers, and much of this will be targeted for the use in downtown Bedford as part of our TLCI. So this program continues and it is available. We also had this at one time in a storage locker, but we've decided to save some money, and it's all in the basement. So it's close at hand. We know where our inventory lays. The only thing that's not in there are the large speed bumps, which we store on streets when they're being used. So that's where they are until someone else wants them. Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund. So I mentioned earlier about the Middleburg Heights for $500,000. We also had one for MLK Plaza, as you know, for $300,000. The fact that we were able to expend these loans out of the original $1 million that was granted to us by the EPA allowed us to submit a new application for supplemental funding, and the EPA has granted us another $1 million. So we do have another $1 million now to be able to offer for brownfields remediation. We do already have a customer, the city of Akron, who would like $500,000 because reminding you that this is not just the NOACA footprint, this is the Vibrant Neo footprint, which is 12 counties, which includes Cleveland, Akron, Canton, and Youngstown. But there's still then another $500,000. So we're wanting to remind you what a great job everyone has done in being able to get us this additional $1 million. Program is moving fast. Not as fast as faster than my clicker, faster than my clicker. Sticky finger. I need help. Okay, that actually worked. Sometimes when I call IT, they tell me, have you tried turning it off and turning it on? It often works. A lot of engagements that NOACA participated in. The picture that you see in front of you is Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg. She participated in an event that NOACA also did. She was a presentation after hours, but I had the opportunity to speak with her. She is the deputy to Pete, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and she was very instrumental in helping us to get the EV charging stations. So we're very pleased for the work that she's done for us. NOACA Van Pool Program, the board wants an update on this pretty regularly, so we've made it an active part of this update. We currently have 44 van pools and 180 riders. This covers 8 counties, including 26 cities. So I'd have to say we're doing pretty well. And we've got 2 main partnerships, one with the Veterans Affairs of Cleveland and one with our W. Beckett in North Ridgeville, which is Lorain County. Our TIP program is underway. You may have already received a letter from me. If not, then you will be receiving it probably today. We've been working on them this week to send out to all of the political jurisdictions to let you know the TIP is kicked off. We will be preparing the TIP for 26 to 29 timeframe, and we have prepared a list of projects that have been developed based on our long-range plan, based on our TAMP program, and we would like you to take a look at those if you are on the list. If you are not on the list, you received a separate letter letting you know that your community does not have a project currently being proposed for the TIP, but perhaps we missed something. And so if you've got something that you think should be in there, please let us know. So either way, all the mayors in the jurisdictions, the county engineers have received a letter either telling them that they have a project proposed or they don't, but either way, take a look at the lists and work with us to make sure that your community is addressed. Regional Infrastructure Accelerator. So we were selected a few years ago as a Regional Infrastructure Accelerator. We currently have been working very, very closely with the city of Cleveland to help them potentially secure a large-scale USDOT credit assistance for their shore-to-core-to-shore projects. At this point, we have been assigned a project development lead from the Build America Bureau, and we are preparing to submit a letter of interest. We have been working on an internal strategic plan, and just yesterday, the consultant unveiled that to the staff. This has been an effort to develop an employee-focused internal vision that syncs with the external strategic goals that the board has. So the board gives us direction to do things in order to reach that vision or achieve that vision. We as staff carry those directives, and this is a way for us to better understand how we work together and work together in the best way possible. Last June, we started by developing a scope of work. That scope of work was developed by a steering committee consisting of NOACA staff. The vendor was selected in September, executed in November. February, the project kicked off. We had engagement survey with staff members. We had leadership interviews. We had listening sessions, and then the presentation of that final deliverable, as I said, was yesterday. So this has been a terrific opportunity for staff to be engaged in the work that they do and how that work is completed. There were some recommendations on HR as part of this. And we look forward to taking those 34 recommendations, prioritizing them and starting to implement them to make NOACA the best place it can be for staff. Lake Erie Coastal Ohio Trail Byway, we have our stakeholders annual meeting and tour on Monday. So I know some of you will be attending with us. I think Mayor Bobst, you are coming on the bus with us. So we look forward to taking that tour. Irishtown Bend Stabilization Project, I mentioned that we had the crowdsourcing platform. We now have it up and running. I can tell you that it works, and we have at least one donor, and that was me. So I did sign on and donate to the project, and all of you can do that, or you can certainly pass around the link in order to help us complete this part of USDOT's grant application and grant award that we received for Irishtown Bend. The OARC Conference on Freight is being held in Cleveland this year, so that's August 28th through the 30th. We did receive the Ohio Auditor of State Award with distinction for fiscal year 2023. So not only did we get a complete or a clean audit for the one we completed in December of 2023, but we met the criteria of financial reports filed on time and no findings, no comments, or no concerns. And only 45 public entities in Ohio have been awarded this. So we're very proud of that work. We would like to both congratulate Deb Wardell and her team here at NOACA, but also Billy Geyer, who was our former comptroller who retired in October of last year. Board updates, if you've noticed, those of you that like to look at your packet electronically, we now have bookmarks and hyperlinks, so you no longer have to go through the entire packet to find what you're looking for. I know that that was probably something that was not fun to do, and I had told Marilyn Laban, who works with us on board-related items, that if she did this, she would become the most popular person amongst board members. And looking at the smiles around the room, I think that's probably true. So you could click now and go to the exact item you want. Also, our commuter award, choice awards, that kickoff has happened on June 1st through November 30th. So rethink your route and get online with us and see what you can do to meet the challenge. Announcements, I have a very sad announcement to make. Dick Heidecker, who was a longtime board member of NOACA. He was a trustee of Columbia Township from 2009 to his death. He has passed away. He was on the NOACA board since 2012, so one of our longer standing board members. He served in the U.S. Navy during Vietnam. He spent nearly 30 years as a volunteer fireman for Columbia Township and retired as the assistant fire chief. He leaves behind his wife of 55 years and 4 children. Dick Heidecker was especially important in my career here. He was one of the first board members that I met with when I was here, and he always had a way of emailing me very charming things, particularly during tough times here at NOACA. So I do want to give a moment of silence to Dick Heidecker. Dick, we will miss you greatly. I in particular. Thank you for your service to the NOACA board and your service to the public in general. Next meeting will be September 13th, and the annual meeting will be immediately following it at the Convention Center.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for the update and report. You and your staff have been extremely busy lately. I can see that. All right, we'll move on to our action items today. We have quite a few. We'll begin with from the Board of Directors. We'll consider resolution number 2024-025. This is the memorandum of agreement for climate pollution reduction grant, and Bev Bertzloff, you're going to take this one for us.
Thank you to the chair. Good morning to the board. Bev Bertzloff, I'm Government Affairs here at NOACA. So the action we're requesting today is that the board adopt the following resolution. Resolution 2024-025, authorizing the executive director to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the city of Cleveland for a U.S. EPA climate pollution reduction implementation grant. And there's no previous action on this. So really, this is a bit of a housekeeping item because it relates to a grant application that we've already submitted, but EPA gave entities extra time to submit these memorandums of agreement if they were submitting as a coalition, which is what we did. So just a little background. The climate pollution reduction grant that was put forth by the U.S. EPA has several phases. And in phase 1, NOACA and the city of Cleveland received a $1 million grant to prepare the priority climate action plan the PCAP. That was submitted March 1st and approved March 7th of this year. And there's a link to that if you wish to review it in more detail. That will be followed next year, July of 2025, by a more detailed plan, the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, the CCAP. Now, the PCAP that we've submitted contains several priority measures, and I won't read all these, but you can read them on the screen. But these are the measures that we identified through public input, through meetings, through a number of actions that we decided should be priority measures. So phase 2 involves submitting implementation grants to put some of those priority measures into action. So phase 2 involves funding for PCAP implementation. Any project submitted for implementation funding needed to be completely consistent with that PCAP that I outlined on the previous slide. And the funding that you were requesting had to fall into one of 5 funding tiers shown on this chart. So NOACA and the City of Cleveland formed a coalition. We were both eligible entities and eligible to create a coalition. And we submitted a grant application that was submitted by the deadline, which was April 1st. And as Grace mentioned earlier in her ED report, our project was entitled Reclaiming the Forest City, Northeast Ohio Complete and Green Streets Program. And we requested $9.9 million. So we would be in that lowest tier, just under 10 million, under which EPA has said they will award the most grants, so that's why we chose the bottom tier. It gives you the best chance of winning a grant. So what's in our application? There's $7 million for regional e-bike rebates. We will partner with Bike Cleveland if this funding is awarded to set up a program to administer these rebates. There's $1.9 million for regional reforestation to help restore that tree canopy that much of which has been lost in this region. We'll partner with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy on that portion. And there's $1 million for NOACA's Complete and Green Streets Fund, which is consistent with the board's 2020 policy for complete and green streets. So the next step in the process, any entities that submitted implementation grant applications as a coalition, which we did, NOACA and the City of Cleveland, must submit an MOA signed by both parties by July 1st. There is no financial impact except for the potential to attract more federal resources to the region. And pending board approval, the executive director will sign this MOA. The City of Cleveland will sign it, then this will be submitted by July 1st to the US EPA, and that will make us eligible for the funding that we've already requested. So we're seeking a motion for approval of Resolution 2024-025, authorizing the executive director to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the City of Cleveland for a US EPA climate pollution reduction implementation grant.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bev. Can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All right,
Mr. Chair.
please.
I noticed in the actual agreement itself, the term was blank. Do we know what the anticipated length of time of the term would be, or will that be completed once the agreement's executed?
Length of time.
The term of the agreement was just blank in the packet. I just didn't know, is it a 2-year agreement or 12 months, or is it dependent upon the approval of the funding, I guess? Maybe that's the answer.
Probably depending on approval of the funding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the length of the grant, the term of the grant.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Please, Councilman.
Is it anticipated that this is the only grant application that we're going to be involved in under this program, or are there going to be more?
So this is the only grant application that we were a partner in. However, there is another large application that came out of the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and the City of Paynesville as a partnership, and we certainly would support that grant should they be successful in getting it.
And what did they apply for?
They applied for, Bev, you probably know a little bit more detail than I do about it, but essentially, a solar, a solar package. Right,
Yeah,
for-
it involves utilizing former or brownfield sites for solar arrays that would be located throughout the region. And yes, it was a partnership between the city of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and the city of Painesville. And we did provide a letter of support for that application to the EPA.
Yeah, and I think there's aspects of it that look to, did you say decommissioning
Yes, ma'am.
commissioning the power plant?
The fossil fuel plant there in Painesville City, I believe, is to be decommissioned and that land freed up.
Any other discussion on this resolution? John?
Yes, through the chair, can you go back to like the second slide, third slide? I have just right there. That's a good one. Background
one?
priority measures. Can someone explain to me what green steel production is? I mean, I'd like to know.
I think what that means is supporting things like hydrogen for steel production, which I know that Cleveland Cliffs is currently looking at and has some plants elsewhere, not here in Cleveland, that's beginning to use that particular source of energy.
I just had the question. I see clean energy, building efficiency, electrification, and green steel production. I understand electric arc furnaces, but a lot of the dynamics that go into steel production is just very hydrocarbon oriented, so.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, then the resolution passes. We'll move on to from the executive committee. We'll consider resolution number 2024-026, regional strategy for coordinating funding opportunities update for the fourth quarter state fiscal year 2024. And Leah Telepak, you're going to present this one for us?
Good morning. My name is Leah. I work in the programming division here in NOACA. Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the board. So today we're requesting that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution, Resolution 2024-026, which will adopt the regional strategy for coordinating funding opportunities updates for the fourth quarter of state fiscal year 2024. Previous action, the Executive Committee recommended this item to the board during their meeting on May 10th. Some background, on September 8th, 2023, the board adopted guidance for updating NOACA's regional strategy to provide a structured, flexible process for proposed updates and to ensure equitable practices in implementing and updating the strategy. So the strategy will be reviewed annually, that's calendar year annually, and a community may propose an update for consideration by submitting a form, which is on NOACA's website. If an update is necessary between quarterly updates, NOACA will implement consistent with Resolution 2023-018. So here's a list of the updates that we received for fourth quarter. In the state fiscal year 2024, we have several different project sponsors and project names that they either wanted to add to the strategy or move to a different funding year, etc. You can see a further, more detailed representation of that in your packet. Just continued requested updates. I want to bring your attention to number 13, City of Cleveland. We changed a project after the executive committee, before this board meeting. We changed Cleveland Riverfront Master Plan to Cleveland North Coast Connector. That's a project change. And this version of the strategy is color coded and strike through to show you the edits that we have made. And then there is a completely black font version that is the final version. So next steps, pending board approval, staff will continue to collaborate with partner communities and organizations to ensure project applications are submitted. And the action we are requesting is approval of Resolution 2024-026, which adopts the proposed regional strategy for coordinating funding opportunities update for the fourth quarter of state fiscal year 2024.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Leah. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, who made the motion? You got it? Aaron? Okay, there you go. Second, Kim Thomas. Any discussion on the resolution?
Yes, I have a quick question.
Please, Councilman.
My question is whether the Howe Road widening item, which was listed in Strongsville, whether that project has anything to do with the proposed interchange.
I couldn't
Leah?
hear the full question.
The question is whether Howe Road, which is listed on the IIJA strategy, has anything to do with the study for I-71 in Strongsville. I don't know the answer to that. Do you, Ali Makarachi? Do you know if that's the portion of Howe Road that has concerns? Sorry, could you go to the mic? Thank you.
Strongsville has applied for the widening the Howe Road, but that's something I think is separate from any study we are going to consider that, but that application was 2023 and it's going to be something like for the 2025, but whether it's approved, but there was no
So it is separate.
follow up the application or anything like this.
Okay,
The answer that they're unrelated.
that they are unrelated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions while we're under discussion on this one? Okay, if not, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, then the resolution passes. Next, we'll consider resolution number 2024-027, a correction of clerical inconsistencies with resolution number 2024-023, the Geauga County FPA, Village of Burton FPA, the boundary and prescription modifications in Burton Township. And Pam Davis are going to tell us about this one.
Good afternoon. Just so that we're clear of what the resolution includes, usually it's a resolution, a memo, a consistency review, maps, and then letters of support. Unfortunately, there were some errors in the memo and there were some errors in the consistency review. I will say that we have quadruple checked these numbers as we go forward. Let me further explain that the resolution that you're going to be passing is replacing text associated with acreage and the maps that were associated and included in the original resolution. So that will be resolution 2024-027. So quickly, there were two parcels where their labels were incorrectly, they were flipped. Parcel numbers were correct, they just were labeled incorrectly. Originally, we said that there were 6 parcels being transferred, and it was only 4 parcels that were being transferred. And this is the correct acreage for the transfer area. Now, when we look at the 6 parcels, all 6 of them had prescription modifications. And you'll notice that the acreage is a little less. Well, we found after the fact, after the board adopted this in March, that one of the parcels had been split. We'd been using some old parcel data. So parcel split combined with another parcel inherited that prescription. So we didn't calculate that as part of the total for the prescription change. And then we had a smaller parcel that was identified as opposed to a larger parcel. Probably easier to see when we talk about a map. So here's the pen. Hopefully that will work, or the laser pointer. So these two parcels, they're very small ones. One of them is part of the boundary modification, but the labels were switched. Then if you see within this blue area here, there's a hatched parcel that's small. We inadvertently picked the smaller one instead of the larger one. So when we went back, that would increase the acreage a little bit. Then we get down over here on the west. The boundary actually changed to follow this line, but we realized after the fact the parcel had been split and combined. So the boundary as proposed change was correct. We just had the acreage incorrect. So if we go to the map currently, before we started this in December through the March board approval process, this is what the current map should look like. The parcels are labeled correctly. They have the right prescriptions. And this is a cleanup of these maps because there's a joint economic development agreement that guides these, and there are already sewers in the ground. So again, we're going to replace the maps. We're going to correct the acreage, and then we'll have a new resolution with all the correct parts to it, and we'll submit that to the affected jurisdictions and to Ohio EPA. So with that, the action item before you is to adopt resolution 2024-027 with the map changes and the text changes with the acreage.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Pam. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, Dale made the motion. Pamela, you want to second that one? Okay, any discussion?
Yes, just
Discussion?
a comment. This is very technical, deep in the weed stuff, and it's just surprising that this doesn't happen more often than it does. And just thanks to all the staff for all the good work.
I agree.
Thank you, Councilman. We just received an application from another FPA coming up, and we actually double checked that one and found some inconsistencies in what was submitted to us. So we are very aware that we don't want to make this mistake again.
Okay, very good. All right. Any other comments before we take a vote here? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, then the resolution passes. Thank you. Lunch is available if you want to grab a box. We're going to keep going here though, because we're running out of time and we've got a lot of work to still do, and we're all right. So, and we're also in danger of losing our quorum here. So, we need 24 board members to keep going, and I think we're at 30 right now. We have 30. So, if you can stay, please stay, because we'd love to get through at least the resolutions here, because we've got quite a few here.
And staff will try to give abbreviated versions of the presentations to keep us moving, so we won't lose the quorum.
That'd be great. Okay, very good. I know we can get the job done. All right, from the Finance and Audit Committee, we're going to consider resolution number 2024-028, the Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund recommendation for funding. Grace and Jason Nauer, are you going to take this one?
Yeah, so we're going to just go through this pretty quickly, but this speaks to what I mentioned in my ED report, where we have the revolving loan fund for the 12 counties. We've made the recommendations previously, and we are recommending today the loan to the city of Akron for Firestone Park redevelopment. I'll take the opportunity to turn it over to Jason Nauer.
Good afternoon. So the board is it's requesting that the board adopt the following resolution, resolution 2024-028, which offers a loan to the city of Akron in the amount of $500,000 at 0% interest with 10-year repayment and with the general obligation pledge included in the loan agreement if possible. Previous action, this funding recommendation was approved by the Vibrant Neo Board of Directors at their meeting on April 23rd, 2024. And this item was recommended by the Finance and Audit Committee at their meeting on May 10th. So background on the site, it is the site of the former Firestone Tire and Rubber Manufacturing Facility. The property is 4 acres and includes a 640,000 square foot building that the city intends to demolish. Planned reuse for the property is new development for industrial manufacturing. The city of Akron is requesting $500,000 to remediate asbestos prior to demolishing the existing structure. And the project is anticipated to create 150 temporary construction jobs and 100 permanent jobs. A financial assessment was completed by Sudsina and Associates, which is the financial consultant retained by NOACA for the Brownfields program. And they deemed that the city of Akron is creditworthy. And this project received confirmation from the EPA that it is eligible on May 10th. And lastly, the property is located in an environmental justice community, as well as a vibrant NEO designated strategic investment area. So the full cost of the remediation and demo is $7,500,000. Akron is requesting funding from the Ohio Department of Development Brownfields Remediation Program grant for the additional remediation and demo work, and anticipate to know if they will be awarded later in 2024. The steering committee discussed this gap in funding and determined that the loan agreement should have an expiration date of 1 year after the NOACA Board of Directors approval. And this would allow the city of Akron to withdraw its request in the event that they do not receive those funds and need to consider other options. Allocation of $500,000 from the Brownfields revolving loan fund would be the financial impact. Actual disbursements would take place gradually as the city of Akron submits eligible expenses for reimbursements. So pending board approval, the loan will be executed by appropriate parties and the funds will be encumbered from the Brownfields revolving loan fund. And then the steering committee is scheduled to meet again on July 19th to evaluate any new applications. So again, the action is approval of resolution 2024-028, which offers a loan to the city of Akron in the amount of $500,000 at 0% interest with 10-year repayment and with a general obligation pledge included in the loan agreement if possible.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jason. Can I have a motion to approve? All right, thank you. Can I have a second, please? Have a second. Any discussion? Sam?
Sorry, and I may have gotten up. This is Summit County and it's outside of our jurisdiction. So did I miss something? That clarification? That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Brownfield Revolving Loan Fund is a partnership between NOACA and Vibrant NEO, and Vibrant NEO covers 12 counties that include Cleveland, Akron, Canton, and Youngstown.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. All right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh,
question.
Councilman.
Who administers the fund and when the money comes back in on the repayments, who decides where that money goes? Is it sent to other brownfield projects? What happens with it?
So NOACA is the fiscal agent for the partnership. So the NOACA board is the ultimate decider on the projects, although Vibrant NEO board does make recommendations as well to us. And the funding will come to NOACA. We are the keepers of the fund.
Okay, very good questions. All right, any other questions, discussion? No, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. All right, then the resolution passes. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on and consider resolution number 2024-029, traffic count services. And Lindy Burt and Ali Bakarachi, you going to present this one?
Good afternoon. Thank you. The action requested under this item, requesting that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution, number 2024-029. This authorizes the Executive Director to enter into contracts with Egaman Engineering and Southern Traffic Services, RECOR, to provide traffic counting services. Previous action on this item was recommended by Finance and Audit and the Executive Committees at their meetings on May 10th. A little background on this project. NOACA's traffic counting project is utilized to calibrate and validate the different modules of the NOACA travel forecasting model. And we also use the data collected under this program to, we share it with partners and stakeholders for other planning activities. Under this procurement, we did conduct a request for proposals. We received 5 proposals in response, and we are actually recommending 2 vendors under the project. So we would have 2 contracts, and these would be 1-year contracts with each, with an option for up to 2 one-year extensions. And the reason we're doing this is that we felt each vendor offered strengths, and we didn't want to pass up on that. One vendor, Egamin, is our current vendor, and they're providing us with great services. The other is offering us the opportunity to experiment with some new technology, that being artificial intelligence. And with that, I will invite Dr. Makarachi up to discuss how the work plan is going to be divided among the 2.
Good afternoon. Usually every year we do in October because we want to get the unbiased data, and that the data collection is for the about 250 locations. But this time we had, as Linda mentioned, we had 2 good, strong vendors. So we decided to have a little bit more, and then we are gonna split this based on the locations of each county. And every year we follow part of the modules of the model to collaborate. So that's gonna be divided, and probably there are gonna be some repeating to compare, because one of the vendors offers the AI traffic counts. It's the first time, and we want to check it with a ordinary tube or the camera, but about 85% is going to be video, and we can go back and is more reliable data the video provide compared with the tube.
Yep. Thank you. So the financial impact under this project, NOACA will contract with each vendor in the amount of $100,000. Total financial impact for 1 year is $200,000. The source of funding on these contracts is NOACA's Consolidated Planning Grant. Next steps, pending board approval, we will enter into contracts with the vendors and commence work. So again, to recap the action being requested, approval of resolution 2024-029, authorizing executive director to enter into contracts with Egamin Engineering and Southern Traffic Services.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lindy. Thank you, Ali. Can I have a motion to approve? All right, thank you, Debbie. A second, please. Mary, thank you. Any discussion? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, motion or the resolution is approved. All right, next we'll move on to consider resolution number 2024-030, Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Plan Consultant. And Lindy Burt, you're going to present this one again.
Thank you very much. Under this action, requesting approval of resolution 2024-030, authorizing executive director to enter into contract with RLS and Associates to update NOACA's coordinated plan. This was also recommended by Finance and Audit Committee at their meeting on May 10th. Background on this project, the coordinated plan is required as part of NOACA's federal Section 5310 funding. And it contains goals and strategies for meeting transportation needs of the region's seniors and persons with disabilities. And our last plan was approved by the board in 2019. Its title being Mobilize Accessibility for Independence. So again, this contract would be an update of that plan. Project components include a review and update of the census data. We will engage the public and stakeholders. There will be a big engagement component under this project. There will be data collected on available transportation services. They will develop regional goals and strategies, and then a draft will be presented to NOACA's council, subcommittees, and committees. And then this updated plan would be brought to the board for review and approval. Under this procurement, we conducted an RFP. We received 3 proposals in response, and again, the recommended vendor is RLS and Associates. They will be subcontracting a portion of the work to the Texas Transportation Institute, mainly data collection, and the sub-consultant will also help with development of project goals and strategies. Financial impact of this contract is not to exceed $146,000, and the source of funding is still to be determined, but we do know that it will either come from the Consolidated Planning Grant or the Section 5310 funds, or a mixture of the two. Next steps, pending board approval, NOACA will enter into contract with RLS and Associates. So again, requesting approval of Resolution 2024-030, authorizing Executive Director to enter into contract with RLS and Associates.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lindy. Can I have a motion to approve? All right, Pamela, thank you. Second, please. Rich, you got that one? Okay. Any discussion on the resolution,
Chair,
please?
just a couple of questions on the new trends in traffic counts. One, is this done, or anybody electronic? How we do traffic counts these days? Is it done with human beings or is it done with sophisticated
Move the
surveillance? I don't want to belabor. I'm just curious. It all goes down to who's doing the work these days. But how is the traffic count actually done? Is it done with technology or is it done still with humans, or how's it all done?
Traffic counts?
Yeah.
Traditionally, it was a tube. They used to put the tube on the road.
Okay.
And every time there was two tubes next to each other, every time the car passes, that tube has a counter.
Got it.
But nowadays I'm not saying it's old fashioned, it's a very useful, but nowadays we have got cameras and we can put, we have got 16 permanent cameras in the city of Cleveland. We can take the count from intersections, and all this has a video that we can go back anytime and look at it, and this very easy.
Okay.
Now one of the vendors offer the AI, which is follows on the picture of the cars and then vehicles and the size of it, and all this is possible. This is the first time we are going to look at this output and see what.
A question, when do we do it versus when our county engineers do it?
What
Do we split the work with county engineers, or how's the split of the work done?
For the traffic counts?
Yeah.
Well, as I said, we haven't determined yet how we're gonna, because every year we look at the results of the model and which part needs more adjustment. Then we go back and look at, sometimes, for example, a couple of years ago, we did only ramps on the freeways. Last year we did to look at the impact of the COVID after we take compared to before, and every year, and we keep it about 4 or 5 years to look at the different. So every year we have got about 1,500, about 2,000 locations and counts to compare with the traffic volume.
And Chair, I don't have any problem with the firm selected per se. I'm just curious, is there a local pool of folks that can do this work too, or are the subs local?
There are very few people that can do this work.
Okay.
But I wanted to address your previous question about, do the counties or the cities, how do we split it up with them?
Yep.
The traffic counting that we do is not for projects, but rather for the model.
Population.
So we have specific reasons to count traffic in certain areas, whether there's certain types of streets or ramps or whatever. So we don't do that. But you bring up a very good point that when communities do traffic counts for projects, if they would send them to us, that could possibly help populate our model as well. So that might be something that we look into.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any more discussion on the resolution? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. All right, then the resolution passes. Next, we will consider resolution number 2024-031, the bike map application development. And Linda, you've got another one for us here.
Thank you. Action being requested under Resolution 2024-031 is to authorize the Executive Director to enter into a contract with Tierra Plan to develop a bike map application. This item was also recommended by the Finance and Audit Committee at their meeting on May 10th. So a little background, NOACA maintains bike maps for each of the 5 counties in our region. These maps contain types of facilities, level of traffic stress on different routes, information about transit, points of interest, and safety tips. We have them in paper format. I have a couple of those right here. We also have a GIS application that provides some information, and then we offer these paper maps for viewing on our website, also in PDF format. So the purpose of this project is to update them and provide them in a much more interactive medium. So it would be an interactive application that users can use for bike trip planning. That application will be both desktop and mobile friendly, and it will greatly improve accessibility for the users of the maps. This is just a screenshot from the PDF on our website of what one of the maps looks like, a portion of it at least. And there is a lot of different information on there for cyclists. Under this procurement, we conducted a request for proposals. We received 2 in response, and again, the recommended vendor is Tierra Plan. Under this contract, financial impact would be not to exceed $120,500, and the source of funding for this project is our consolidated planning grant. So pending board approval, NOACA would then enter into a contract with Tierra Plan and commence work on the project. So again, asking for approval of Resolution 2024-031, authorizing the executive director to enter into a contract with Tierra Plan to develop a bike map application.
All right, very good. Thanks again, Lindy. Can I have a motion to approve? Pam, thank you. Have a second, please. Sam, thank you. Any discussion on the resolution? Yes, Mary?
I just had a question through the chair to Lindy. I don't know if this is something you know, but curious, I think the last map on the website was from 2019. So can you, this looks like it's a contract specifically for developing the web-based application. Have there been other updates to the bike network? And I guess a little selfishly, if there has been, is that something that could be shared? Because we're working in communities all the time. We'd love to have updated data on bike maps, bike
It is,
systems.
That project is with our Transportation Planning Engineering Division, so.
Well, we keep the, because of the, as I mentioned before, because of the model, we keep all the bike lane and everything updated. So probably the print one says 2019, but the GIS portal, NOACA GIS portal has got the updated one, and we go with that. We keep updating, and any information. Recently, we are working on the Metro Parks trial study that's going to be make it more updated. Anything we are missing. So it's not 2019, it's more updated, probably 2023, or it's going to be next, probably 6 months, it's going to be 2024 updated version of the bike network and type of the bike lanes on the roads.
Another question, Debbie?
Yeah, I just have a similar question. So once this is developed, does NOACA have the ability then to go in and do the updates themselves, or will the consultant be on board longer term to be able to make updates to the app, and who handles that?
This is the vendor is going to have the same we did for the workforce. Is going to be, once we develop this tool, then after that, it just every time we update the data, we are going to replace the database, and it's going to be updated. It's not going to be, you know, all the time we need a consultant.
So you'll be able to do
that. Is once, and it's going to go from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Was there another question here? Yeah, Pam.
Thank you, Chairman. Will this include bike maintenance stations that are located throughout our communities?
Yes.
Can it?
Yeah, the bike map right now we have got, it's got information, as Lindy mentioned, all over our region, but that's going to be more in the same thing on the when the user, when he goes to app and looks at on the cell phone, is going to see where the attraction location for bicyclists, and then he's got the level of traffic stress on it, and he's going to find the route from origin. So the user can say, I'm going from here to such and such, and where's the safest route I can take? Depends on the level of the cyclist. It's not, you know, it's not just the map. It's got some more algorithm in it, and we have developed on the model. We're going to transfer it to the app, and the consultant is going to create a front end for it to user can use on the app.
Okay, a follow-up question. Will they be surveying each of the communities so we can provide that detailed information? Because a lot of these we've placed, you know, without outside funding. It's just something that we've done. So
Yes,
curious how they'll collect that.
This
Thank
is
you.
going to be similar to any other work. Once we develop, before the final version is going to be distributed at least to the community, and then get the feedback and adjust it and calibrate it and make it final.
Yeah. Kelly, had another question here?
Thanks. I appreciate the question around data updates. I had a similar question and would just emphasize that as the app is being built, I think having as much as possible a consistent data schema that all communities are sharing to track our data will be really key. So would like to request that there's a kind of stakeholder group put in place to help inform and just inform how the app is programmed. I know that in the past, maybe 5 years or so ago, NOACA served as a regional convener to have a standardized regional map schema and would love to kind of have that group reconstituted as part of this work. My other question is around marketing. I love the idea of an app or something that is electronically navigable, but do know that the usefulness of it is limited to the number of people that know about it, and wonder if there has been thought about how to share that this is available, how we get the news out after it is in place.
Well, we are gonna do all this, I don't know, the question, when we develop, obviously it's gonna be on our website. So it's not just the app, it's gonna be an app on the website as well. Anybody wants to the computer, they can go, and we are gonna market, and I hope the people who is a cyclist, they're gonna have like the map now. We have run out of that because they're so interested, so we can do the same thing with the app. And always there is many other things we can provide the data and provide all this to keep it updated and keep you informed and get your feedback before making it finalize the tool.
We have a terrific public affairs team, and they have a marketing section within that. So we will turn it over to them to do large scale marketing.
Okay, any more questions? Any more discussion on the resolution? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. All right, then the resolution passes. Thank you. Next, we'll consider resolution number 2024-032, professional engineering and planning services. Grace and Lindy, you got this one?
Sure. So the professional planning and engineering services really is an augmentation to staff. We are a small agency, and both when we have vacancies and we have need for outside consultants, but also we don't have enough staff with the levels of different expertise that is needed for different projects. So this gives us that ability to cover more ground with the limited dollars that we have.
Thank you. Okay, the action being requested under this item, Resolution 2024-032, authorizing the executive director to enter into contracts with MKSK and DGL Consulting Engineers to provide as required engineering and planning services. This item, previous action was recommended by Finance and Audit at their meeting on May 10th. Background, as Director Gallucci just talked about, these contracts would provide specialized technical services on the work of the agency. They would provide supplemental planning support during times of vacancy, and the services would be provided on an as-needed or task order basis. Under this procurement, we issued an RFP. We received a total of 2 proposals, and evaluation team recommended those and felt that both were qualified to do the work and provided fair costs costs will be reviewed later, but provided a good staffing capabilities. And so we would recommend moving forward with both proposals received. They would be subcontracting portions of the work as needed, MKSK with Osborne Engineering, and then with Lawhon on environmental, and then Nelson Nygaard on transit and rail planning. DGL Consulting Engineers would be sub-consulting with Lucas for traffic engineering and counting, Lawhon again on environmental, and then Engage Studio Architects for projects that are dealing with the built environment. It is our intention to execute 1-year contract with each vendor with option for up to 2 1-year extensions. And then, as mentioned, a pricing and mini proposal will be provided in response to each task order. So NOACA will contract with each vendor in an amount not to exceed $100,000 Total potential one-year financial impact of this would be not to exceed 200 with each of the contracts. And the source of funding would be dependent on the project on which the vendor is serving. So again, next steps, pending board approval, NOACA will enter into contracts with MKSK and DGL Consulting Engineers. Recap of action requested, authorizing, 2024-032, authorizing the executive director to enter into contracts with MKSK and DGL Consulting Engineers.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lindy. Thank you, Grace. Can I have a motion to approve? Tom, thank you. Second, please. Jamie? Jamie, thank you. Okay. Any discussion? Debbie?
I just have a comment. We did have a pretty robust discussion about this at the committee meeting. It's unfortunate that only 2 consultants proposed on this. And one of the things that came up was the fact that the contracts are small. So I think splitting it in half makes that even more challenging going forward. So just something to think about, and maybe it's worth having conversations with the consultants, but this is the second resolution where we're taking an advertised contract, splitting it between 2, which is nice. I guess it spreads it around, but again, then does it make consultants in the future not want to apply because they're putting in the amount of work and only getting half the contract. So just something to think about going forward.
Appreciate that feedback.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay. Resolution passes. Thank you. Next, we'll consider resolution number 2024-033, authorizes spending for legal fees. Grace and Lindy, you're going to tell us about this one.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to remind us that Bauer Griffith has been our legal counsel since 2013. Of course, you all know Nancy Griffith. And normally, for the last 10 years, they have kept the expenses under $50,000, which has been my authority. And that's pretty remarkable considering all the work that is done. But because of the additional work that was requested of them this past year, it has exceeded my authority, so we are bringing it to you. And I will have Lindy describe in more detail the issues.
Thank you. The action being requested under this item, Resolution 2024-033, authorizing spending for legal fees with Bauer Griffith in an amount up to $100,000 for fiscal year 2024. This item was also recommended by the Finance and Audit Committee at their meeting on May 10th. So as Director Galucci stated, Bauer Griffith, their annual legal fees typically have not exceeded the executive director's spending authority in the past, but there has been a significant increase in legal services provided to the agency during the past fiscal year. This consists of additional services on procedural and legal guidance provided to the board and the board president, and then also increases in the agency's general legal, the general legal work that they do for the agency, which the bulk is procurement and contract review. And then they also do provide us with review of public records requests and response to those requests. So as of the end of March, NOACA exhausted the amount of executive director spending authority, and we still have legal services that were provided April and May and through the end of June. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. So we have contracts that need to be under review. We have the standing committees and of course today's meeting, which they are attending, and then any other unanticipated legal matters that come up for the agency through the end of the fiscal year. So the financial impact of this item, the executive director would be granted an additional $25,000 spending authority with Bauer Griffith, which would result in total expenditures not to exceed $100,000 for the fiscal year 2024, which ends June 30th. A little follow-up from the last committee meeting, our Finance and Audit Committee and executive committees did ask that we engage in competition around these services. So we did post an RFP for legal services on May 31st. That is posted through July 1st on our the procurement page of NOACA's website. And then also the committees had also requested invoices for the past 2 years, and those were provided to the board as well. And so next steps on this pending board approval, the executive director would be granted up to $100,000 in spending authority with Bauer Griffith Law Firm for fiscal year 24 ending June 30th, 2024. So action requested under this item is approval of resolution 2024-033, 33, authorizing increase in spending authority with legal services provided by Bauer Griffith up to $100,000.
Thank you, Lindy. I did want to make it very clear that we have put the RFP out there because it's time in terms of, we have had the same legal firm for a decade now. And so we were asked to do that by the Finance and Audit as well as the Executive Committee. But I want to make it very clear that Bauer Griffith, and particularly Nancy Griffith, has done an outstanding job. They have served NOACA very, very well, and particularly for the costs that we have paid. I just want to make sure that people understand that they have served us very well.
Just a question on the point, Chair, to the CEO and anybody else. It looked like July 1 is the end date on that RFP being open. I have a reservation that that's enough time. It went out May 31, or it will go out went out May 31, and do you think you'll catch enough? And I guess the second question is, what kind of net do we cast when we put out that RFP? So spirit of the question is there enough time and to effectively address enough pool of candidates?
I believe Lindy can answer a little bit more in detail as to who she sent it out to, but we can always extend the time if we think that we need more time for, larger response.
Yeah, a month is a pretty typical time period for most of our technical RFPs. I know this is slightly different, but I think maybe more of a streamlined type of response is provided or required to be provided by firms. So we felt a month was adequate for the type of service being requested. But of course, as the director said, we can always extend that. In terms of the net that we've cast, I've reached out to the Ohio Municipal League, Ohio City and County Managers Association, the Ohio State Bar Association, and then each bar association in the 5 counties, asking if they would help us and then Norman Minority Bar Association. So asking if they would help us to get the word out there about the opportunity. I've heard back from some of them and have made multiple requests. So that occurred the same time it went up. So we're trying to again, make sure that firms are available of the opportunity.
Thank you, Lindy. And is the Regional Metropolitan Bar Association also?
Cleveland Metropolitan is and then each of the other 4 counties each have a bar association.
Okay. Mr. Chair, just because I think this is vitally important to our progress as a board, it would be, I don't know if it's customary or not for the board to see finalists or if executive committee or some designated committee reviews, interviews. It seems to me an appropriate path, but I'm worried about time and that enough candidates know about this, although that was a good net that was cast, and what the process is for selection going forward.
So our normal selection process is that we put together a team to evaluate, and the team consists of mostly NOACA staff. However, we do include external partners when necessary. If the president of the board sees fit, he may choose to have us extend who is participating on the team. And then in terms of the timing, we can extend that now, or we can wait to see if folks are, if enough firms are participating.
Yep. And thank you, Grace, on that. Ms. Chair, on that point, I would recommend, end of 3rd quarter, September 30th, to give this board another board cycle. I think to understand who is applying, if that's appropriate. To me, from a transparency standpoint, it's appropriate, making sure it's legally appropriate in our RFP guidelines. Spirit of it is just to make sure we have a good pool, that there's a decent process for selection. I would advocate that board members should be in that process, and relative to Bauer Griffiths, obviously they're going to be perhaps in that process. I don't know, but after term expires July 1, you can go on a quarter, month-to-month basis, right? That's a question. This is just to make sure that there's enough vetting at the board level with our pool, and hopefully that pool is robust, and you can get it down to a group of finalists that you can make a decision from. That's where I'm going with it.
In terms of Bauer Griffith's contract, they don't have an end date.
Okay.
We do go fiscal year to fiscal year.
Okay.
So it is up to them and NOACA whether we continue.
Just for clarification, FY is end of calendar 24 or June 30th?
June 30th.
Okay, so if they go fiscal year to fiscal year, just, it rolls, but then is it assumed that that's a 12-month or is it a month by month at the discretion of the board?
Our legal counsel said day by day.
Okay. So again, Mr. Chair, my suggestion is, in this, just for context for the entire board, this was also robustly discussed at the executive committee. I thought we moved on it as a recommendation to this body to be deliberated with this body. But I'm glad you raised it, Grace, in the context of your presentation. But we did discuss it quite a bit and deliberated and decided the need for an RFP for legal services. I think we should stay with that decision process, and so would recommend adjustment to September 30th.
To be clear, there doesn't need to be any extension. When I say year to year, I mean that as we budget for legal services year to year, and we've been continually using Bauer Griffith.
Yeah.
However, you can end it or start it at any time. So if you wanted to, we could ask them. In fact, I think it's, as you said, day to day, really. So there does not need to be any action to keep Bauer Griffith.
Yeah. And to look at that conversely, I mean, that day to day can extend out to whenever. My point is just to have some chance for board to review the top finalists as recommended by whatever group this is, and hear their quals, credentials, and and I guess their work. So it in other government agencies, you often principals have a decision power within the selection of legal services. I just think here we should do the same.
Well, I think it's appropriate considering that the legal counsel does represent the agency.
Right. Thank you for that.
Okay. Yep. We have another comment.
Yes, it's my general understanding that we're just we're doing a budget amendment to allow for additional spending at Bauer Griffith. Is that correct?
Correct. Through the
All right.
fiscal year.
And you have an RFP out there, which is engaging various attorneys. And that at any time after the RFP is completed and a recommendation is made, Bauer and Griffith can be dismissed and a new firm hired. Is that correct?
Correct.
I believe I'm getting nodding.
And keeping in mind that these are really two separate things. We just brought in the point about the RFP because it was requested by the board committees, but one has really nothing to do with the other.
Right.
And I
you know,
appreciate
just-
your point.
Yeah, I personally have no objection to doing the budget amendment. We just like a successful RFP process and that board members be included.
Nor did the executive committee, if I recall, Mr. Chair, but I do recall that we also had a motion to RFP for legal services, and that motion didn't carry through to this board today. But I'm glad you put in the context of this. I didn't know if this was the right time to bring this up or if it's a separate resolution that we should offer to the table today that carries forward the executive committee resolution. Point is there was, I think, a vote called to do an RFP, and that vote didn't make its way to today's presentation, except in the notes that you gave
So
here.
there is no need for the RFP to make its way to the board until it's time to actually approve it. So to execute it, I had indicated at the committee level that I would execute it prior to the board meeting, which we did.
Right.
So it is posted, it is advertised, it is currently in process. Right.
So I'm glad you brought it up again in this context. I agree with Tom. It doesn't really correlate exactly in this context, but somewhere it needed to be brought up.
To make sure
Yep.
that we brought that up because
Right.
it was, the conversation about the RFP came up in the context of the legal fees.
Yep.
So it made sense to assure the board and particularly the committee members who requested it, that we did follow through and put that out there for bid.
And what I would just say as a friendly amendment proposal, Mr. Chair, is just to work the date up to give us another board meeting to have a discussion on who the future, whether it's Bauer Griffith or anybody else, who the future legal service team would be. So I'd say September 30th. I mean, July's between board meetings and around the corner.
If I may ask, so you're saying that the timeline for the RFP should be September 30th?
Yeah, can you go back to the slide?
Just to be clear.
Yeah. You got posted July 1st. My clarification or friendly amendment is to extend that to September 30th. Again, with Bauer Griffith serving us day by day anyways, and this $100,000 cap likely being approved today, it's just to give us more time to vet who's actually applied and maybe narrow that down and have a conversation with the board.
Well, we can, well, let's see, we can, let's see, we can approve this motion with the amendment then. You want to amend the date to September 30th?
I don't think it's in the resolution. It
But
just,
you want to add it into it?
good.
We could change it.
That's what, I think if you can go back to that slide. So this is simply just letting you know that we have the RFP posted because it came up in the conversation. It is a distinct and separate issue from the approval of the authority, which then the authority would only go to June 30th for the money. I mean, for this $100,000, come the new fiscal year, which is July 1, I have another authority of $75,000. So I don't need further board authority unless they would exceed that, which would not happen.
I'm comfortable going forward with the resolution as you have it on the budgetary side. If it could just be agreed at this table that we get a report of however it's appropriate to report who's applied and perhaps extend out. My suggestion is September 30th, so this board can meet and get that report at this board, which we'd have a meeting before. We don't have a meeting before July 1st.
Could I offer a clarification to the timeline? I mean, I think between September 30th is the next board meeting from today, right?
the
But,
date.
well,
It's
I don't know,
September 13th.
September,
Yeah.
the month of September. But there will be committee meetings between July 1st and that September board meeting where updates could be given to the
Exactly.
requisite committees to have that discussion. And I just wonder if that achieved
Exactly.
your objective.
Well, the only reason I say July 30th is if it doesn't achieve our objective, you can give an interim report of who has applied, or can you not? That was a question earlier.
I don't think we can give an
have to
interim
close it?
report as who has applied and then allow board
Okay.
members to comment on it. And then if they're, I mean, that
That's,
circumvents.
that's fine. We could reopen then. I mean,
Correct,
you know,
exactly. Yes, you can reopen it.
yeah, I wanted one for it to be known that was pretty robustly discussed at executive committee. And then two, making sure we do everything we can to get a robust pool of
So
you know,
what
firms.
we can do, we can extend the date to July 31st,
Mhm.
which then would give the executive committee the opportunity to look at it at the August meeting, which I believe is the second week
Yeah,
of
middle
August.
Yeah,
Would that work?
I can live with that. I
Okay.
think that's helpful to get a little more time.
Okay, so we'll,
Yeah.
we'll modify this resolution to say July 31st then?
It's not actually part of the resolution.
Oh, it's not. Okay. We're going to leave this one alone then?
That's just staff agreement. We're gonna agree to do
We
that.
will,
Is it-
we'll extend the
unless
date
anybody
to
has a
July
problem with that.
31st and bring a report to the executive committee in August.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to leave this alone then? All right. All right, Gally.
If I could just ask two procedural clarifications, not on the resolution, but on the RFP process. It looks like the planned amount for the contract going forward to be awarded through the RFP is in the $50,000 to $75,000 range. So does that mean that this RFP process, while consistent with the committee's recommendations, is not technically required?
Correct.
And the board would not have to approve the award of that contract, although we are having transparent conversations about the process?
That is correct.
Thank you. My final question is, do we have any guidance from the committees that reviewed this before about how often we might like to see this type of solicitation go out? I think every year is probably too frequent, given the administrative burden of managing RFPs, but maybe every decade is a little too long. I just wonder if we have any
Understood.
procedural guidance.
For many of the things, we do 3 to 5 years. So that would probably make sense, but we certainly can bring the whole concept to the Finance and Audit Committee, which is the committee that oversees procurement, to set some standards.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'll just flag one more thing to the chair. It's come up a couple of times in conversation today, robust conversations at committee level regarding items on the agenda. And I'm not sure the level of staff effort, but it would be helpful to have committee minutes going into this board meeting so we don't have to rehash committee conversations. We can come a little bit more up to speed, those of us that aren't on those specific committees. So just wanted to put that out as a potential aid.
Yes, you have mentioned that before, and I know it has been a little bit challenging for us. But with AI, we might be able to look at something quicker.
Okay. All right, then can I have a motion to approve? Tom, thank you. Can I have a second, please? Kelly, thank you. Any further discussion on this resolution? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, the resolution passes. Thank you. From the Planning and Programming Committee, we'll consider resolution number 2024-034, plan and tip amendments, fourth quarter state fiscal year 2024. And Jim Thompson, you're going to take this one.
Thank you to the chair. It is requested that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution. Resolution 2024-34, which approves a plan and tip amendment for the fourth quarter of state fiscal year 2024. And this is for items 1 through 4 unless individual action is required. And previously, this was recommended by the Planning and Programming Committee. I'm going to kind of go quickly now, so I'm going to skip that standard diagram that we have. If you have questions, you can let me know. But essentially, we have 4 projects which would be amended to the plan and tip. They are the Hilliard Road Bridge, the Rockside Road Bridges, the Lorraine I-90 project, and the Noaca's EV Charging Station Program Phase 2, which was an award that we received through the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program last year. All the information is in your packet. So essentially, the Hilliard Road Bridge and Rockside Road Bridges and I-90 rehabilitation projects total $231 million, as the EV charging station Phase 2 totals $18.75 million. Funding is committed and or planned from NOACA and non-NOACA funding sources for these projects, and funding is also provided by FHWA and administered through ODOT. So pending board approval, the amendments will be incorporated into the NOACA plan and or statewide tip amendment in July. So it's being requested that the board approve resolution 2024-34, which would approve fourth quarter state fiscal year 2024 plan and tip amendments for items 1 through 4, unless individual action is required.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Can I have a motion to approve? Sam, thank you. Can I have a second, please? Debbie, thank you. Can I have any discussion on this one? We're good? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay. Resolution is approved. Thank you. Next, we will move on to consider resolution number 2024-035, state fiscal year 2025 annual priority list. And Jim, you got this one as well.
Yes, thank you. So the board is, it's requested that the Board of Directors adopt the resolution 2024-35, which would approve NOACA state fiscal year 2025 annual priority list. And previously, this item was recommended by the Transportation Subcommittee and the Planning and Programming Committee. So essentially, when we develop our long-range plan once every 4 years, we do have a long-term vision for what the transportation needs are and environmental needs are for the region. And then that filters down in time to our Transportation Improvement Plan or Program or TIP, in which we provide committed funding to projects. And that TIP is 4 years, 4-year window. So then every state fiscal year, NOACA does develop an annual priority list, and this is a list of our commitment of projects within 1 year, which we expect to have delivered within that state fiscal year. So for this year's annual priority list, we have 29 projects totaling $42.6 million. This also includes debt service payments from previously approved state infrastructure bank projects, loans. This diagram demonstrates how the projects are broken out. And so most of the projects, or 47%, are roadway projects. We have about 30%, which are transit projects, 18% bicycle and pedestrian projects, 2% bridge projects, and 3% regional projects. And I should note, just because there is a primary project type, that does not mean that the projects may not include other project types within them. This list is in your packet. It includes bridge, regional initiatives, roadway projects, bike ped and shared use projects, and transit projects. So per usual, any additional funds that are made available in state fiscal year 2025 will be expended considering the hierarchy, which was approved by the board in September of 2015. First, we look at providing funding to reduce planned debt service or planned debt requirements. Secondarily, we look at advancing future TIP projects. Third, we look at funding new projects. And fourth, we look at project cost increases. So then pending board approval, staff will manage the state fiscal year 2025 program to ensure expenditure of all available funding allocations. So then the Board of Directors is asked to approve Resolution 2024-35, which would approve NOACA's state fiscal year 2025 annual priority list.
All right. Thanks again, Jim. Can I have a motion to approve? Rich, thank you. I have a second. John Gall. Any discussion on this resolution? Mary?
Just a point, I don't know, maybe I'm missing somewhere in the, I guess, through the chair to Jim. In the minutes from our March meeting, we talked about the awards for TLCIs being like $2.5 million. And then in this table, I see, you know, an 800,000 and maybe a 280,000. So I'm just curious on,
Are you referring to this part here, regional initiatives? The bottom item on the table here?
well, no, because
I
I
should
guess
note.
it wasn't as clear as to what the
Yeah.
project was maybe, and so just in
I
the
can
table, it
explain
just
that.
kind of had a bucket of dollars and it didn't add up what I saw from the 2.55.
Yeah, so I think maybe what's confusing is that this is, the $800,000 is for the TLCI program, which includes potential planning studies as well as staff time. And then the other items which would be in the table include TLCI implementation projects. So those are infrastructure projects. So it's a kind of a different,
So they look like roadway projects versus TLCI. That might be why, maybe.
yeah, I think it's more of our program as opposed to infrastructure projects, which can be confusing.
All right. Any other questions? Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. All right, then the resolution passes. Thank you. Up next, we'll consider resolution number 2024-036, functional classification amendment recommendation, East 66th Street. And Dr. Magarachi, you're going to take this one for us.
Good afternoon again, and we are requesting the board to adopt the following resolution, Resolution 2024-036, which revises the 0.2 miles of the East 66th Street from Superior Avenue to Wade Park Avenue from a local road to major collector. The previous action was in 2020, and that was 2020-035, classified the East 66th Street from Huff Avenue to Euclid as a major collector. This is just the extension of 66th Street, and that requested by City of Cleveland to make it all the way from Superior to down to the Euclid as a major collector. Well, probably you know that the streets are part of an interconnected network, and each one play a role in terms of mobility and accessibility, and how closely that's the actual function they do, that is important for safety and efficiency and congestion. So what you see on the screen on the right-hand side usually is a typical from textbook, from the access from the residential area to the freeways. And on the left-hand side shows a curve, which is when we go towards the freeway, the purpose of the freeways are generally is a mobility. And when we go down to the cul-de-sac is for the accessibility. That function and the curve is important in terms of the network safety, congestion, and the efficiency of the network, highway network. So as I mentioned, this is mainly right now is a major collector in the south part of the East 66, and the only extension is just 0.2 from the Wade to Superior. And based on this resolution 2014-025, we have to follow we have to check the three criteria: roadway characteristics, class network share, and accessibility. Then we checked all these three, and for the first one, we need two of those three, those of these criteria to be satisfied. And right now, two of them is a average annual daily 2,000 is satisfied, and the access uncontrolled, and parallel spacing between the similar one major collector is less than. It didn't pass, but two, we needed two based on resolution 2 out of 3. So second one was the looking at the function major collector in the NOACA region. Again, they recommended from the FHWA 7% to 13%. Right now, we have got 8.72%, which again, it is not overrepresented, so that passes too. Same thing with the Cuyahoga County is right now 7.16% as shows the table circled in yellow. So the again recommended suggested range is a 7 to 13%. The other one is a trip density analysis. The third one, the measure the accessibility that roadway provides. That's again, we look at the TAD traffic analysis zone in and around that area and see how many trips are generated using that road segment. As you can see, it's about 21,956, and the range is between 20,000 for a major collector for urban area. Again, that passes. So that's basically, then we're gonna, if we approve, we're gonna inform ODOT and FHWA for further review and approval. So we are requesting the resolution for the resolution 2020-24-036 revises 0.2 miles of the East 66th Street from Superior Avenue to Wade Avenue, from a local road to a major collector.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ali. Can I have a motion to approve? All right, Kirsten, thank you. Can I have a second, please? Sam, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. All right. Resolution is approved. Okay. Moving on. Next, we'll consider resolution number 2024-037, Public Transportation Agency's Safety Performance Measure Targets. Kessa Turnbell.
Good afternoon. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm not usually tall enough for these mics. I'm here to present Resolution 37 on Public Transportation Agency Safety Measures, and we're asking you to approve the update of the Regional Public Transportation Agency Safety Performance Targets. This has been recommended by all of the committees, and last year in Resolution 2023-30, the board approved the current Regional Transportation Agency Safety Performance Targets. Public transportation providers and state departments of transportation must establish safety performance targets to address the safety performance measures identified in the National Public Transportation Safety Plan. Please note that this requirement excludes transportation systems that only receive federal financial assistance under sections 5310 or 11. The performance targets established in the National Public Transportation Safety Plan are fatalities, injuries, and safety events, both totals and rates per total vehicle revenue miles, as well as system reliability, which is the mean distance between major mechanical failures. Transit agencies approve their new targets through annual safety plan updates and then coordinate with the MPO to set regional performance targets within 180 days. Lake Tran and Lorraine County Transit set their targets through the Regional Transportation Agency Safety Target Development Methodology, whereas GCRTA and Medina County Public Transit use the statistical rolling average for safety performance targets. The goal for all of them is reviewing and continuous improving of target setting. GCRTA has light and heavy rail and motor bus. For rail, their injuries have increased from 1 to 2. Occupational injuries have decreased both years to 6.82 and again to 6.75 per 200,000 hours worked. Fatalities, safety events, and preventable collisions have held steady at 118 and 1.4 respectively. You actually want to see increases in system reliability because that means you have more distance between failures. So light rail has decreased from 7,000 to 4,000, while heavy rail has increased from 11,000 to 11,800. Lake Trent has commuter bus, demand response, and motor bus. Commuter injuries increased to 0.2 last year before holding steady. Demand response increased to 3.14 before decreasing to 2.74, and motor bus decreased to 0.21 before rising to 1.37. Safety events are at 0.2, 2.94, and 1.37. The system is getting more reliable for all modes and is now at 44, 38, and 14,000. Lorraine County opted out during the initial process and so has zeros across the board, but it was decided at previous meetings that we should try to encourage them to set targets moving forward. Medina injuries are increasing from 0.05 to 0.07 for demand response and 0.01 to 0.04 for motor bus, while the rates for both of those are decreasing from 0.06 to 0.04 and 0.02 to 0.01 respectively. Rates and system reliability are decreasing and increasing respectively. Pending, there is no financial impact for this item, and pending board approval, NOACA staff will continue to coordinate with transit agencies in the development of the Public Transportation Agency safety, performance, and target setting. So once again, we're asking you to approve Resolution 2024-037, which adopts updated regional public transportation agency safety performance targets.
Okay, thank you, Kessa. Can I have a motion to approve? Sam, thank you. India, do you want to second that one? Any discussion? India,
Well,
please.
Yep, I wanted to second and just a quick comment. Just because GCRTA was highlighted on one of the slides and great presentation, dare I say, that's a lot of data. And I think you did a great job in explaining it without reading the slide, which is always awesome in my book. RTA should see significant improvements in some of those areas due to replacement of fleet. That has a lot to do with some of the issues that we experience on the light and heavy rail. But we are definitely dedicated to the PTAS. And that was definitely something that is helpful for us to maintain our safety record. And so for those decreases, that is intentional. And we did highlight that in the past week, specifically at the national conference that we hosted. So PTAS is definitely an industry-wide accepted document. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, India. Any more discussion on this one? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay. Resolution passes. All right. We're moving on here. I think Brenda and I were just discussing, we're at quorum right now, aren't we? So if we lose any more people, then we'll have to stop. So at least we won't be able to vote. So we'll just move on here. A couple more resolutions. Resolution next we'll consider is number 2024-038, the Geauga County FPA prescription modification in Bainbridge Township. And Pam, you've got this one.
Just a clarification, we're going to ask you to adopt this as a slate. There are no objections.
All right.
So it's
okay.
Resolution 038 and 039.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, it's two resolutions, one in Geauga County. It's really just one parcel, changing the prescription from future consideration and limited sewers to currently sewered, and it is supported by the local, all of the affected parties, and it really isn't reflective of a current sewer that's in play. So the map on the left says currently, you see it's in areas to be sewered, and then it's going to currently sewered because the sewer line is right there. That's the purple line. The second one is in Elyria in Eaton Township. This is a request to transfer one parcel from the Elyria FPA boundary to the Lorco Avon Lake Phase 1 FPA. This is by request of the homeowner, and the actual receiving DMA has actually the receiving DMA has actually requested that the prescription be changed from limited sewers within 20 years to sewers expected in 20 years. There is a sewer line that goes along Castleton Road. It ends just to the south of the hatched property. So we're changing the boundary to include that hatched property to go south to Avon Lake Lorco and to change its prescriptions to be sewered in 20 years. So again, our whole process is we notify everyone when the board acts, we submit this to Ohio EPA, and we update all of our maps. So action is these two resolutions.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Pam. Can I have a motion to approve? All right, Mayor Brennan, Bob, Mark. Okay, there you go, Mark. And can I have any more discussion on this one? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Both resolutions are approved. Okay. We do have a couple presentation discussion items. First would be the procurement practices and procedures update. Grace and Lindy, you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, we'll go through this very, very quickly. This is simply to update the board and let them know that my authority of $50,000 now has been increased to $75,000 based on state action and practice. And so just wanting the board to understand that now only things above $75,000 will come to the board. And Lindy, if you want to give the specifics, but kind of take
Thank
it
you.
through.
Again, this item is for presentation only, no action requested. So procurement approval authority, as the director mentioned, anything 50,000 or less, executive director has authority. Anything over 50,000 prior to, we'd brought to the board of directors. There's been a change in Ohio Revised Code 307.86, which is competitive bidding required exceptions. And effective October 3rd of 2023, the state increased their competitive bidding threshold from 50,000 or more to 75,000 or more. And then that will continue to increase. That will stay in place through the end of this calendar year. Then beginning in 2025, it will increase by, per state law, 3% each over the prior year, each calendar year thereafter. So in line with that, NOACA's new procurement approval threshold would also change to anything in excess of 75,000 comes to the board of directors. This would include amendments where a contract then amendment results in a contract over 75,000 we would bring to the board. And then we will also increase our threshold 3% beginning in 2025 and every year thereafter. So next steps, this is implemented now in the agency procurement procedures in line with state law.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lindy. All right. One more presentation item. Quick update on the Irishtown Bend Slope stabilization project. And Grace and Will.
Yeah, good afternoon again. This particular project is very important to NOACA. We have funded it upward of $25 million. We recognize the importance to the region relative to economic development and economic opportunity. And with that, I'll turn it over to Will Friedman, who is the director of the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Port Authority, to talk about the project and its relevance to the region.
Great. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to this body for giving us a few minutes here. And thank you for your previous support of this project. I'm going to kind of compress this down and move through this quickly because we're running over and I know everybody needs to get on with their day. Gonna just push through a couple slides. So the main messages here are that the maritime sector, the maritime economy, maritime trade and transportation in our region really matters. These are the numbers you see on the screen in front of you for economic impact. That's a large chunk of our regional economy. And I think there's potential to grow those numbers. Historically, we've seen those numbers rising as we do our economic impact reports on our port here every 5 years or so. So infrastructure projects like Irishtown Bend, which I'm going to get into here in a moment, that maintain this system and allow it to remain functional are very important. And your support of this as a regional transportation project is critically important. So thank you once again. Just a few slides quickly on the port. We're not only a traditional port authority, but as you know, a lot of port authorities in the state of Ohio also function as development financing agencies. We do an awful lot of that. I won't go into it any further. If any of you have projects and you're looking for assistance with financing, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or anybody on my team. Speaking of my team, this is Linda Sternheimer standing here next to me. She is my alternate here to the NOACA board, so she may look familiar. She's also our lead on the Irishtown Bend project as Senior Vice President for planning and urban engagement for the Port Authority. I'm going to skip over that. So getting to Irishtown Bend here quickly. Photo you see here is just looking sort of in a north to or south to north orientation. The green swath is the hillside in question, in Ohio City here in the center of Cleveland. I'm not going to get into a lot of the technical details here. Again, headline is we averted, and we now have, because we removed enough mass off the hillside, we've averted a potential catastrophe. This hillside could have had a massive landslide down into the Cuyahoga River, blocking the ship channel and potentially doing more harm to both property and potentially to people. We are far enough along in the stabilization now that that will not occur, but there's more work to be done on the project, as I'll speak to here in a moment. These are just some historical photos. If anybody ever wants to do a deeper dive into all this or anything related to the port, feel free to give us a shout. We're always happy to talk about this project and everything else we do. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's ample evidence from all the studies we've done that that hillside was moving down toward the river, was going to continue moving down toward the river, and could have let go massively all at once and moved into the river. So just one more slide on the technical side of things here. This rather complicated slide shows you that what was going on was a combination of two things: underlying geology, where there was essentially a unstable clay layer down deep, and there was too much mass on top of it, and it was acting like sort of a slide that would just convey that material down slope, especially if there was a sudden loss of stability at the toe of the slope at the bottom. That could trigger it progressively moving all the way up the slope. And then there was a lot of material placed there many, many years ago by the Army Corps of Engineers, which overweighted the hillside and exacerbated this problem. I'll skip these. So quickly, what is the fix here? It's primarily two measures. One is removing material, a lot of material, and then regrading the slope, and then installing a very, very heavy duty bulkhead, steel bulkhead at the base, at the river's edge, which is about to start here shortly. A lot of the removal of material has occurred. The regrading is underway. There are other elements of this project, including the rehabilitation of the westerly low-level interceptor, NEO-RSD infrastructure, important infrastructure that runs right through this hillside and has been endangered, and Sewer District has already made repairs several times because of deflection, because of the movement of the hillside. That's going to be restored and protected as a part of this project as well. I'm not going to go through this timeline. We're going to skip that. It will just come to really the most important part of this, which is funding. Here you can see all the sources of funding, including the sources that are coming through the NOACA board. Again, thank you. We are still a little bit short. I think we're now at about 4 million, 4.5 million short. We recently received some additional funding from the Sewer District. The Sewer District had originally put in 7 million. And because this project was delayed, unfortunately, at a time when we had severe cost inflation and escalation, we went back to the Sewer District and asked if they could help us overcome some of that escalation, and they did so. They have put in another 1.8 million. So we're at about a $4.5 million gap here. We're continuing on with the project. We're working hard to fill that gap. We've got an ask out to the federal government through both Senator Brown and Congresswoman Brown's offices, and we're hopeful that there may be some more federal funds coming. If not, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could be back here at some point asking for some more help from NOACA, but as of now, we're going to see what happens with the federal funding. Do you want to run this video?
Yeah.
We're
So-
going to run a quick video. Thank you for hanging in.
This is a time lapse of,
Here. Okay.
of the construction. Sorry about the music. Yeah.
Turn it down if I could.
To mute it for you, but
Hit video again. I think
you get the idea.
yeah, well, yeah, progress has been made. Great. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, here we go.